Hello, and welcome back to Too Many Books. My name is Sean, and today we have a Suntup press unboxing. A very exciting one. This, my friends, is Boy's Life, the numbered edition by Robert McCammon. One of my favorite novels, and I am due for a reread, and what better way than in its letterpressed glory from Suntup Editions. We have a nice little bookmark here featuring the artwork of David Palumbo, who has graciously illustrated this edition through and through. And man, if you haven't read Boy's Life, you should go out and read it right now. Like, this needs to be in your TBR pile. It is a undervalued classic of coming of age literature, of historical Southern literature. Little leather label on the spine. Nice little clamshell here that the book deserves. And the book itself is wrapped too. Interesting. We've got like a little swaddle lining to the clamshell here. Let's dive in. The book itself, quarter bound in goatskin leather. A nice little leather label for Boy's Life. The rest is a very, very beautiful cloth binding. It actually looks better in person than, I liked the mock-up for this. The mock-up looked fine, but it actually looks better in person. Just the blue is stunning on it. But this, as I'd mentioned, is letterpress printed. It is more widely available in a classic edition. Oh, what are these end papers? These end papers are soft. I don't recall reading what those end papers were. Anyways, we have a little frontispiece here from David Palumbo, who has illustrations throughout this. Ooh, you can feel the letters. It's more readily available. It's available wherever trade editions are sold, but the Suntup editions has a classic edition, which is signed by both Palumbo and McCammon. You get the same exquisite story, the same beautiful edition. It's not going to be letterpress printed. That is offset printed on, I believe, Cougar natural paper. This is letterpress printed on Mohawk Superfine forward, which is from the 2008 edition. And then there is an introduction, a new introduction that is exclusive to this edition, right here in the Suntup edition. Let me zoom in a little bit. I apologize here. I, for some reason, thought the book was going to be larger because of the tray case. It's the same regular size as every other Suntup edition, so I don't know why I had it zoomed out as much as I did, but I did. But anyways, you have The Body by Stephen King, or Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, that are kind of upheld as these classics of coming-of-age stories. And they are. They are in their own right. I'm not going to deny you that. Boy's Life from different seasons is a masterpiece. Something Wicked This Way Comes is an incredible tale. But I would argue that Boy's Life deserves a spot amongst those. This is one that sort of fell by the wayside. That's doing it a disservice. The thing did sell well back in the day. It never fully went out of print. You can still go to stores and buy this. So I shouldn't say that it's, some creeping up on the back of the shelf type book. But, it certainly has its audience. But what I mean to say is the audience should be larger than what it is. This is the story of Zephyr, Alabama in the 60s following Corey Mackinson. It's been a few years since I've read it, but Corey witnesses a tragic accident, a car driving into the lake in Zephyr. But turns out that it's not just a driver who'd passed out. The driver is actually murdered, and it leads into a childhood adventure like no other. Corey kind of trying to navigate his way through the world, through the changing socio-political landscape that you can only get in, like, the 60s in the South, a landscape that McCammon himself grew up witnessing, with an eclectic cast of characters from all sorts of backgrounds. Some I can't say much more without getting a spoiler detail, but let's just say that, you know, being in the 60s, being in the South, you're gonna get some interesting, dangerous activities for some of these characters. This is the novel that just it almost has a sense of magical realism to it as well, and it is perfection. I mean, this should be required reading in schools. About well over a decade ago, I had a part-time job, an additional second job, working part-time at a bookstore. And that summer, when the kids for this class got their required reading list, or the reading list for, you know, the English class, I don't even remember what school it was, but the teacher, one of the books he had listed on was Boy's Life. I was so excited. And I also felt bad for these parents because we had one copy in the store. Like I said, we did have a copy, but we had one copy. This isn't really a title that people are coming in droves to purchase, but suddenly they were. This is, I believe, it was this is the cover artwork from the classic edition, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the end papers. The classic edition actually shipped over a year ago. I have an unboxing on the channel for the classic edition. I can't do a side-by-side because I no longer have that classic edition. My apologies on that. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I do have another edition, which is the Subterranean Press edition, that I should do a side-by-side with. But maybe I'll give that its own video for that. Just so, you know, this is the magic of the Suntup edition, and then I'll show you the Subterranean Press edition in its own little video, just to kind of give them their own place to shine. So this, being the numbered edition, is limited to 250 copies. Mine is 173. It is printed on Mohawk Superfine, letterpress printed. There is a lettered edition as well, which is actually 2 volumes, printed on Arches mold-made paper. That's 26 copies. I don't know how I feel about that. I love the idea of that. I actually like the concept photos. So this is one where I mentioned that it actually looks better in person than it did in the mock-ups. The mock-ups looked fine. The lettered edition, the mock-ups looked decent. It looked really good. Nice little blue leather. I saw photos online. That is outside of my means. And I'm hoping it looks better in person than it does in the photos. Because in the photos, the blue isn't like a dark blue like this. It's like a bright Fisher Price blue with like a red label for, like, I really want to love it. And maybe it's different when you actually have it in your hands. I'm sure the paper itself is exquisite. Arches mold made sounds incredible. But, I mean, the photos that I'd seen beyond the mock-up left me less than impressed. But anyways, Robert McCammon, Boy's Life, an absolute masterpiece of a novel. Definitely recommend checking it out. This is one of the quintessential coming-of-age novels that it should be required reading. You know, you have plenty of, like, 60s era coming of age in schools, most popular being To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, which, to be fair, To Kill a Mockingbird is an exquisite novel. That is getting its own Suntup edition. I'm looking forward to that one. That one hasn't shipped yet. I do have a copy of that on order. But if I'm being honest, I actually prefer Boy's Life. I don't think it quite got its due. I mean, like I say, it's never gone out of print, so it's not like it failed by any means. But it never quite got its due, mostly because McCammon had always been a horror novelist. And, I mean, he did branch into several different genres, but all his novels had pretty much primarily been horror or horror adjacent. Gone South being maybe the furthest away from that horror genre, but that still had some, you know, Gone South is another overlooked one. In fact, Gone South and Boy's Life, I don't even know if I still have it. I'm looking at my bookshelf. I do not still have it. I think I gifted it to someone else. Gone South and Boy's Life actually got combined into an omnibus edition that you can find for pretty cheap if you just want a reading copy. They're both like Southern classics that kind of branch out from the horror genre, and as such, they both kind of get overlooked. If you want to see an exquisite version of Gone South, I have several unboxings on my channel from Levidian Publications, including one linked in the description below for the lettered edition, which I am thrilled to add this numbered edition next to that Levidian lettered. I mean, they are very much different tiers. This is heads and tails. No offense to you, Brian James Freeman, you made an exquisite book. This right here, this numbered edition, is still head and shoulders above lettered Gone South, but that's just because it's apples and oranges. This is letterpress printed. You have offset printed. I mean, you have full color artwork of both of them. That is a lettered, like, upper tier of small press. This is fine press. You know, it's two different ball games here. But I mean, unfortunately, Boy's Life sort of kind of gets overlooked. Same with Gone South. They're never quite getting their due, especially back in the day, because Robert McCammon had always been a horror novelist, and these were the two that kind of branched out from that. But seriously, if you haven't read Boy's Life, I highly recommend checking it out. Find that omnibus. It's pretty cheap online. It's an old trade omnibus that included Boy's Life and Gone South. You will not be disappointed. You're getting two classic novels in one package deal, and for used book, you could probably find it for a few bucks. But anyways, if you want a copy of Boy's Life from Suntup Editions, I feel like it's fully sold out. I forgot to check if the classic edition was still available. I feel like it is fully sold out, but the classic edition can be found for, I don't want to say relatively cheap. I mean, the trade edition is still going to be the cheapest option. But you can find it for a decent price on the secondary market. You're going to have to go to the secondary market and pay a little bit more if you want the numbered edition or, God forbid, the lettered edition. But anyways, it's definitely something worth checking out. Believe it or not, there's also, I'm putting a link in the description below, if you find yourself a fancy bookbinder or a bookbinder aficionado, or you want to hire a local bookbinder, Suntup actually uploaded, I say uploaded, that sounds like a weird thing. They actually added, I think it's like 5 unbound book blocks of Boy's Life, the numbered edition, to their website, link in the description below. And I believe they're still available. They're still available as of this morning of me releasing this into the world, so you know, the same day this is posted, where you basically get, I can't remember if it was sewn or not, but you do get the illustrations, you do get the signature page, you are getting just the block. You're not getting the quarter bound, cloth bound cover. You're not going to get the tray case or anything like that. You're just getting the block of pages. But I mean, theoretically, you could bind that yourself if you're getting a book binding, or you could hire a bookbinder in your area to bind that for you, or, you know, you could just use this block of pages and read that way, I suppose. It'd be a weird way of reading it, but, you know, hey, you do you. You know, I'm not going to judge. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Check out Suntup Editions. Please go read Boy's Life, Robert McCammon. It is a masterpiece. Please consider subscribing to the channel here. I do at least one book review a week. Plenty of unboxing videos, much like this one, between here and there. Thank you again very much for watching, and we'll see you around next time.